Hello, thank you for joining us, Comsverse. My name is Ben Merrills. I'm the CEO of ZapHappy, and this talk is about Operator Connect versus Direct Routing. We're going to cover topics around the changing face of the dial tone product inside Microsoft Teams and what that means for businesses. So my name is Ben Merrills. I've been working in telecoms since about 2001. I've worked for a number of different internet service providers, data center providers, and telecoms companies. I'm a .NET developer with a great interest in many things. And in 2013, I started ZapHappy, which is focused on SIP products and now also direct routing as a service and international numbering. And we are very proud to be a gold sponsor of Comsverse. So, some of the topics we're going to be covering in today's talk, we're going to be looking at, said, the changing face of the dial tone or delivery of PSTN based services into Microsoft Teams. We're going to be looking at the latest offering from Microsoft in how to bring PSTN connectivity into Microsoft Teams, which is called Operator Connect. And then we're going to consider each of the different options that are currently available and which businesses they would apply to, and who's going to take the most benefit from each of them. So there are currently three main ways of delivering PSTN connectivity into Microsoft Teams. The first and the sort of the oldest, if you like, is the Microsoft Calling Plan. So Microsoft Calling Plans are a license-based delivery method for PSTN into Microsoft Teams. They allow customers to take telephone numbers and call minutes, sometimes bundled, sometimes in a pay-as-you-go offering, and they're pretty quick and easy to set up. They can be done through the Teams admin center, and they're really good for small tenants who perhaps have no sort of pre-existing relationships with a telecom supplier or a licensing supplier, or they're a greenfield tenant, because they can just go in, activate the services they need on the correct license type, and just sort of be up and running straight away. But there are some downsides to the Microsoft calling plans. Traditionally, they've had limited availability in countries, and they have very limited scope for revenue generation for licensing resellers and telecoms resellers. As such, they're not really promoted by anyone other than Microsoft. So the second option is direct routing. So direct routing came about, if you like, because of the want and need for some enterprise customers to deliver existing PBX connectivity back into Microsoft Teams. But that really opened the playing field for telecoms resellers who were able to all of a sudden deliver their PSTN products back into Microsoft. And that created a whole new ecosystem of direct routing as a service providers who were able then to deliver more different features, more availability, and more commercial options. Um, and then the third and sort of the newest of those is Operator Connect. And Operator Connect has tried to fill a few gaps from Microsoft's position. The first of those is direct routing is really good at delivering that connectivity into Microsoft Teams, but not all direct routing service providers are sort of made equal. Some direct routing providers offer a suites of functionality where that product or that connectivity into Microsoft Teams can be managed through their provisioning portals. So attaching telephone numbers to users, managing those telephone numbers, and so on and so forth. And some don't. Um, and one of the biggest headaches for direct routing was the PowerShell component. You can't provision direct routing through the Teams admin center. It has to, for the most part, be done through PowerShell. And a lot of direct routing providers don't offer any automation for that, and so customers were obviously having to do some of that themselves. So one of the things that Operator Connect introduces is an external operator experience. However, bringing the administration back into the Teams admin center. The second thing is in 2020, Microsoft acquired Metaswitch, and that gave them direct access to a suite of VoIP products and session border controllers, but also a number of carriers that Metaswitch worked with. So the likes of BT, T-Mobile, Sprint. And a lot of those were using an SBC product from Metaswitch, which now forms the basis of the Operator Connect product. And that product has meant that those operators can pretty seamlessly start to deliver their calling platform directly into Microsoft Teams. So Operator Connect provides an operator-managed infrastructure. That basically means that the infrastructure and the connectivity, the software and the hardware are all managed by the carrier. So that's their connectivity back to PSTN networks. That's their SBCs that are handling all the core routing. And then they're passing that back into the Microsoft Operator Connect infrastructure, which is managed by Metaswitch using the Perimeter SBC platform, where they can then deliver those calls directly into Microsoft. And they've described that as an SBC as a service type product. But really, it's the operators managed SBC component talking to another SBC component within the Microsoft Teams Metaswitch infrastructure. The other thing it's provided is obviously access for those operators to deliver that product directly through the Teams Admin Center. And that's going to have been done through a standardization set of APIs. And that means that all those operators can deliver the same product experience back to the end user through the Teams Admin Center. But it's allowed the operators to deliver a wider scope in terms of number, availability, and countries than Microsoft's own calling plans do. And not all of those carriers or operators are delivering the same experience in terms of availability of countries and number types. Some carriers, for example, are providing just one country, and some have got sort of 40 plus countries available on them. So this is obviously all done through a tight standardization of that the operators are working with, and there's a limited number of operators currently available, as you can see from the slide. That's because, like with other Microsoft approved solutions working with partners, there's been an approval or a vetting process to bring that product into their ecosystem. And sometimes what we find with those kind of solutions is they then start to be pitched at a higher end of the market. And I think what you'll find is two things. Operator Connect is almost certainly directed at enterprise markets, and the costs will probably be higher per seat because of that. So what I want to do is have a look at where these different products sit and where they overlap, because some of these products obviously do have a large area of overlap in both terms of who they cater to and what functionality they deliver. So the first, if we look at Operator Connect, Operator Connect is looking to deliver an experience where you have a relationship with an existing carrier. So where you already have, let's say, commercial agreements or existing infrastructure that's maybe currently on, sort of a ISDN, digital or analog delivery, and bringing that over into Microsoft Teams. And so one of the commonalities that's shared then is that they have gone down the route of making the provisioning and management of that available through the Teams Admin Center. And that's shared, if you like, with the Microsoft Calling Plan. Microsoft Calling Plans are managed through the Microsoft Teams Admin Center, but Microsoft Calling Plans are really designed at smaller tenants who want quick online provisioning of telephone numbers and call bundles or pay-as-you-go minutes without having to involve a third party. And so both calling plans and direct routing, therefore, seem to tailor more to the SME market because they're dealing with generally sort of, anything from 1, 2 seats all the way up to maybe sort of 500, 1,000 seats. And direct routing also obviously has a number of other advantages. It's very easy to create custom and tailored solutions around direct routing that involve things like on-premise equipment, other third-party telecom services, which make direct routing quite a flexible and, as we say, an agile solution. And then the other thing that direct routing shares with Operator Connect is that wider availability of countries and numbering, which sort of really does make it a more appealing product compared to the calling plans, where that scope and reach is quite limited. So if we have a look at these three different options laid out in terms of their sort of overall functionality, I've broken it down into a few different ones. So you can see we've got the calling plans, Microsoft with direct routing, and Operator Connect. And generally speaking, all three of them enjoy reasonably simple deployment. Specifically, calling plans, it has a very simplistic deployment plan. It's all done through the Microsoft Teams Admin Center, and it's ready there. You can just go straight in and start provisioning as soon as you have the correct license types. Operator Connect, once you have that association with the operator, that's not something that you can do yourself through the Teams Admin Center at the moment. But once the operator is linked back to you, then you have the ability to start managing those existing assets of numbers against users. Now, with direct routing, potentially it's quite simple. It is only a few commands in PowerShell to get direct routing up and running. But some direct routing providers have gone the extra step and they've built the whole direct routing provisioning and management capabilities into their own portals, including things like the automation of the PowerShell, number management, using the Graph API, for example, to bring back information about users and license types they have available to them and which ones can be used for on-prem and enterprise voice. So with direct routing, it's not a simple case of that deployment is always simple. It really does depend on the direct routing provider that you're using and what functionality and provisioning they provide. So in terms of call functionality, Microsoft calling plans have always supplied the sort of the baseline of call functionality that's available with inside Microsoft Teams. And although all three share, again, that basic call functionality, we do see with direct routing some capabilities not being done in parity. So, for example, caller presentation policies with inside Microsoft Teams don't flow down to direct routing. But I suspect we will see all those capabilities being carried across into Operator Connect, much like they are with calling plans. Again, however, the reason I put the tick in direct routing is because of the flexibility of direct routing and the fact that the direct routing providers have the ability to control the SBCs and the managed infrastructure that sits around them. These kinds of functionalities should be easy to replicate outside of the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. So it is capable of doing them, just perhaps not quite in the same tightly integrated way as the calling plans or Operator Connect will have. So then one of the most important things I think when you're looking at the sort of future growth of your business with inside Microsoft Teams is what kind of coverage you can get in terms of number availability. If you're a small company, you may only need numbers in one country, but that still has to be within the 16 countries that are currently supported by calling plans. Similarly with Operator Connect, currently the most that I think is supported by any one operator is about 42 countries. Whereas with direct routing, because a lot of the direct routing providers are also aggregators, there's a lot more coverage for countries that have where they can provide numbers and PSTN breakout. So although that number will probably go up in terms of Operator Connect, um, direct routing already has good coverage. I don't think we're going to see a huge amount more on calling plans. So next up is what I've labeled the hybrid option. And direct routing really opened this up potentially to customers. And that was the ability to create something that was just more than a Microsoft calling plan. It was the ability to bring in an existing service, for example, an on-prem phone system or a cloud-based phone system into Microsoft Teams and have the two of them working together. So with hybrid options, what you would see is someone might have a existing call center where they had agents answering calls, but then able to pass them straight into Microsoft Teams to another set of users without having to have any external breakout, and using direct routing to bring that traffic into Microsoft Teams as if it was a call within the same phone system. Now, you can't do that with the Microsoft calling plans because you have no control over call flows and routing. And we're yet to see if any operators will do that with Operator Connect. However, it won't be much like with direct routing, it's not a standard feature, but it's something a lot do. Again, it won't be a standard feature, I wouldn't have thought, within Operator Connect, and therefore not something that you'll have direct control over, for example, within the Microsoft Admin Center. In terms of call recording, there's been a lot more around call recording inside Microsoft Teams. However, with calling plans, there's no ability, for example, to automatically record calls. That was introduced with Microsoft's compliance call recording or policy call recording feature, which can be taken advantage of regardless of whether you're using a PSTN product like Calling Plans Direct Routing or Operator Connect. What we did see with direct routing was a lot of suppliers creating network or PSTN based call recording, which is very easy for them to do once they're controlling the call flow back out to the PSTN network. Um, Obviously, direct routing providers are now also introducing that policy or compliance call recording to sort of bring that up one level, so that it's not just calls that are involved in direct routing, but calls across Microsoft Teams as a whole. We've yet to see what will happen in terms of Operator Connect in terms of call recording. However, from what I can see at the moment, it won't be a standard feature of the Operator Connect product. That just seems to be more about introducing the PSTN and the numbering components. But again, we'll see over time as the Operator Connect product evolves, what becomes standard and what becomes operator-specific functionality. So operator managed basically just means who's responsible for the infrastructure. And obviously in the case of a calling plan, that's Microsoft. Although Microsoft use in-country suppliers to deliver a lot of the functionality and the call breakout, they essentially are the ones who are responsible for liaising and managing that with the customer. In terms of direct routing, again, that is a managed operator managed infrastructure. What we've seen with direct routing is direct routing as a service providers bringing direct routing to customers, and that generally means that they come in one of a couple of flavors. You get direct routing as a service providers who simply just provide the direct routing component. And then you get ones who provide the direct routing component and the PSTN breakout. So there is variation there as to what degree that direct routing provider operates and manages and owns that infrastructure. So that's something to sort of be mindful of and look into when you're choosing a direct routing provider. How much of that infrastructure is theirs and what are they relying on from others? And then with Operator Connect, one of the key sell features here really is that it's an operator managed solution. They're using their own infrastructure, their own PSTN networks, their own VoIP networks to deliver those services back into Microsoft. And that really is one of the things that will appeal, obviously, to enterprise customers who will want to see that sort of that single line of support delivered by one company, where they can rely on particular SLAs from them. Now, the last thing I've put down in here is the revenue stream side of things, because there's two kind of businesses that we've been talking about throughout this presentation. There's the businesses who are the tenant themselves, so they are the consumer of the calling product, and there's businesses who are selling services to tenants. So they may be selling, for example, licensing, they may be selling support, they may be selling third-party services that integrate with Microsoft Teams. And for PSTN side of things, calling plans have never provided any form of revenue stream for those businesses, not in terms of the licensing of the telephone numbers or the minutes or the calling plans themselves. Direct routing changed that because it opened up that market to the telecoms resellers and also the competitive commercial propositions that those resellers have. And that really meant for the first time that bundles could be created that resellers could take advantage of, and that they could also add markup on, or even potentially create their own commercial solutions for their customers. With Operator Connect, I don't really see that changing. Operator Connect is definitely targeted at an enterprise market. It's a relationship that is between the tenant and the operator, and I don't think there'd be anything in there for the telecoms reseller industry to take advantage of. Yes, there's deeper integration back into the Microsoft Teams admin center, but actually after that, that's where any benefits end. There is no ability for them to add on their own value adds as part of that. So what does this mean? I've broken this down into sort of 4 sections: financial, technology, features, and future direction. So as we said, in terms of financials, pricing wise, Microsoft calling plans are always a good option for those who are small businesses, maybe not wanting to have a relationship with an existing telecoms reseller, and they just want something quick and easy to get them working with PSTN related products inside Microsoft Teams. Operator Connect won't change that. The calling plans themselves aren't particularly sort of competitive in price, but Operator Connect is going to be aimed at an enterprise market, so certainly won't be looking to change or compete with Microsoft calling plans, which really then only leaves direct routing in terms of pricing, where we see a very competitive reseller market who want to bring in new customers or take on customers, and can offer competitive and new commercial propositions. And again, that ties in with the revenue stream side of things as well. If that is your business and you're wanting to create a revenue stream out of voice with inside Microsoft Teams, the only option really still for you is going to be direct routing. Operator Connect isn't going to change that. In terms of technology, Operator Connect has introduced that sort of that integration, that deep integration back into the Microsoft Teams admin center. But in-life administration has been available within direct routing for some providers for some time. It's not done through the Teams admin center, but they have got administrative, in-life management and provisioning processes which are equally as good based on the products that they're serving. And obviously, the calling plans still deliver the same provisioning experience they always have done. And I think in terms of what you're wanting to take on for your products and services, if you're wanting to take on a calling plan, then you're going to have that easy process. If you want to use direct routing because you want more features and services, then make sure that you're looking at someone who has that ability to deliver that to you in a way that doesn't mean you're going to have to do manual provisioning through PowerShell or whatever. In terms of features, core functionality, Direct Routing always stands out on that side of things because it is the most flexible, it's the most open to be augmented, or we've looked at hybrid solutions where PBXs can be delivered back into Microsoft Teams. There are lots of other options for customers and suppliers and vendors to create new and distinctive propositions on top of Direct Routing. Um, I think with Operator Connect, all you're going to see is the features the operators themselves want to deliver to the kinds of customers that they're looking to appeal to with Operator Connect. I think you won't see as much sort of movement in that space, especially because Microsoft will have a firm grip on what they're able to deliver back into Microsoft Teams, certainly from a management and provisioning point of view. So for future direction, really that means we're going to be looking at, what is it that we're going to see 6-12 months down the line. In terms of Microsoft calling plans, probably not a lot. They will keep feature parity in terms of what the underlying Microsoft Teams voice product offers. You'll see that with calling plans, that won't change. But you won't see, I don't think, a huge increase in the availability of countries on the Microsoft calling plans. I think Microsoft now are happy to leave that in the hands of direct routing providers and operator connect partners, who will then look to take the mantle on further availability in other countries. Now, if you're looking to future-proof the solution you're taking, Microsoft calling plans may look really good to start with, for their ease of picking up. However, further down the line, you may find that that's not really the option that you want, especially if you have a business that changes the way it's using telecoms all the time. You may wish to, integrate with existing on-prem hardware. You may need to do something that's not quite the norm, and that won't happen through the Microsoft calling plans. And with Operator Connect, you're only going to see the features that the operators want to supply. That will be delivered and driven through those enterprise customers. So again, I think there's definitely a place for direct routing to fill that middle ground with those sort of more dynamic and agile solutions for customers. So really just some quick final thoughts. I think all three options definitely have a place. I think the Microsoft calling plan will always be there for the customer who just wants to come on and get some really, basic functionality out of Microsoft Teams for calling, and they're not overly concerned about the price point. I think future-proof solutions are always going to be orientated around direct routing. I think direct routing provides the best in terms of a competitive ecosystem where people will always want to deliver new and innovative solutions as well as commercial propositions. And that leads me into the third one, cost and revenue streams. I think Operator Connect will be a more expensive product, certainly than direct routing and Microsoft calling plans, because of who it's aimed at and the level of integration that those operators are paying for back into Microsoft. And direct routing, of course, supplies, I think, the only real valid proposition for anyone looking at revenue streams. And if you are looking for added benefits around your PSTN services in Microsoft Teams, then I think, again, direct routing is probably the option there that delivers the most flexibility for customers. So thank you very much. I hope that's given you some food for thought, a bit more information about what Operator Connect is and how it works, and also how it compares to the Microsoft calling plan and direct routing. Thank you very much for your time, and take care.